Hi everyone, Dorothy and Phyllis here. We had another topic planned for today, but I caught Phyllis playing the Last of Us video game, and I was completely shocked due to the incident in 1968, which I will let her tell you about.
Okay, so during our time in captivity in Hangar 18, we have had several caretakers over the years, of course, because we were in there for over 70 years. But in 1968 in particular, something happened to us mentally because we were able to watch Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero. And our caretaker at the time told us that this was a real video.
It really happened.
Yeah. So this, in our perspective at that time, this was something that really happened. And we had never seen anything like this before. And as you can imagine, being stuck in captivity on a planet full of Earthlings was already kind of scary. And then the idea of them potentially turning into ghouls and us having no way to escape was just utterly terrifying. I sat in the corner and just didn't even speak for days after watching that movie.
And it's kind of funny because I obviously was scared of it too, but I wasn't as scared as Phyllis. And as the decades have gone on and we've seen more and more horror movies, particularly in the zombie genre, I am just absolutely terrified. I started watching The Last of Us because I really, I like Pedro Pascal. Who
Who d
doesn't?
I was gonna say, who doesn't?
Jinx, Alien Jinx. Um, but I only made it like I think I made it maybe like 5 episodes. I'm not sure. I was so deeply affected by the Bill and Frank episode, just emotionally, that I kind of couldn't emote for days after that. And then once I saw the Kansas City episode with the kid zombie and all the zombies like exploding out of the ground or clickers, whatever you want to call them, they're basically like zombie adjacent. I was done. So I never proceeded with that. I also tried to play the video game, but as soon as I saw the first clicker, I was like, no. So I was done with that. And obviously, looking back on George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead from the 60s seems very tame now compared to others. Like, people might laugh at this, but Dawn of the Dead from 2004. Phyllis, did you have any thoughts on that before I talk about my reaction?
Well, I feel like in other zombie movies that we have watched in the past, the zombies were always pretty slow. So there was always the part in your mind watching it where you could be like, well, maybe you could just run. And us as aliens can move faster than humans. So that always made it a little bit less scary after I got over the initial idea of us dying on the planet and being eaten by ghouls. But once I was able to move past that mentally and realize that that probably was not going to happen, the whole genre as a whole became a lot more interesting, especially you can observe the earthling behavior of how to react in a survival situation, and they are just as dumb as they are when they're doing well. So
Yeah,
in fact,
like kind of like
possibly worse.
groupthink. Yeah, working in groups. There's a lot that could be studied about humans just from watching zombie movies, like how they work together
Exactly.
or don't work together, even when their lives are at stake.
Right.
Um,
But what was
yeah.
particularly disturbing about the 2004 Dawn of the Dead was the zombies ran, and that was a little more disturbing, I admit.
Yeah, I would describe it as more than a little disturbing, but I felt it so deeply inside of me when they started running. And I even though this was like 21 years ago, when I think about the myself of that movie, I still like I still feel terrified. But I mean, if it wasn't so terrifying, it would be really interesting to think about how would you work in a group if you guys are just all of a sudden stuck in a mall and you have to survive in there? I mean, like zombies aside, I know, Phyllis, that you are a huge fan of the show Survivor. So I feel like it's that same sort of thing. It's more about the people and the personalities, which make it almost more difficult than having to find sticks to make shelter and food and whatnot.
I would agree because in so many of those movies, and I'm sure if something like this were to happen in real life also, just yeah, having to work as a team and I, just that whole idea in general of working with a group of people does apply to the TV show Survivor as well. Um,
Yeah.
but it's something that we've been studying our whole time on Earth because even though we are aliens and we're held captive, we've still been observing human behavior and trying to learn as much as possible because of our shape-shifting abilities. We do walk around in the world as humans.
Mhm.
We try to keep our interactions to a minimum because y'all stink, but
One other
we,
thing I wanted to mention, I thought of this as you were talking, is I was very, very into The Walking Dead for a really long time. I actually read the graphic novels when they came out. I don't know when that was, 90s, early 2000s. It was so good, and
Mhm.
most of it was about survival, like survival as a group, and when society doesn't exist anymore. So I was so excited when the show came out, but I couldn't even watch the show. Like, one, because the actual scenes were so graphic and disgusting. Like, there was one scene, I think, like I don't know, cut people's throats in like a pig trough or something. So I was like, that's it, I'm done. I think there were many, many seasons and maybe some spin-off shows after that, but I was just like, who needs to see that? Like, the show, the survival itself is so fascinating, and the interactions between the characters, and it felt like they just had to do gross out to get ratings or
Mm.
something, but I don't know who wants to see that.
I feel like there's a lot of Earthlings who want to see that, but then there are the other Earthlings who are more interested in human thoughts and interactions and group interactions in general. So I think that's part of why I did like some episodes of The Last of Us is it wasn't so focused on like jump scares or gore, which it does have, but there was a lot of like character development, and it's a story about the people in this world, in that world, not just, oh, here's some zombies and
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Bill and Frank episode actually it felt like a movie. Like, that could just be a
right.
totally standalone thing. Like, it was just this guy who already was a survivalist, and I don't know. You know what? I can't even talk about this. I get too emotional. But yeah, I mean, I've read so many books and watched so many movies over the years. Like, I think I also read World War Z before it was a movie
Mm,
with Brad Pitt. Uh,
yeah. I did read that book, but I never watched the movie because I don't know. I go back and forth. Occasionally, I will regress to, the summer of 1969, where I was still believing that Night of the Living Dead was real and still scared. It was a very, very rough year for me, um,
yeah,
until
yeah.
we eventually realized that it wasn't real. But that was like a full year and a half of believing that the ghouls were going to attack at any minute. It was very, very stressful.
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything by not watching World War Z. The only thing I remember from that movie was that if you were already sick with something, like if you had cancer or whatever, you could walk among the zombies. Like, they weren't interested in you, I think maybe
Mhm.
because you were already dying, which I thought that was kind of an interesting concept. But yeah, anything else about zombies that you wanted to cover? Because I honestly don't know how to not be scared of them, even though obviously they're fake.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, it always depends on the type of zombie because there's the traditional Night of the Living Dead ghouls, which despite the incident in 1968, um, is probably the least scary of them. I would say that The Last of Us is probably the most scary because it's the most realistic, because cordyceps does exist, and
Yeah.
the we could talk about fungi another time, but it is just a life form that is
Actually,
so
yeah, we
much
should.
smarter than I think most people realize. And the only thing stopping them is not having a body. So the idea of cordyceps hijacking the body of other beings is a way for them to assert their control and potentially take over the planet. So that's always a
Yeah,
little
I
bit
was
of a
like,
concern.
okay, so we need to do a separate video just on cordyceps, but also another moment of the show that I was terrified by was when I think they asked some scientist what to do, and all she could say was bomb. Oh my
Jesus.
God, this is so terrifying. Another thing I thought of is I recently saw the movie 28 Years Later. Okay, so first of all, I was really annoyed because we're almost to actual 28 years after the first movie came out,
Hmm.
but they couldn't just wait like, a couple of years. I don't know why I was compelled to watch 28 Days Later when it came out, maybe because I just see every movie. But I watched it. I was terrified. I've watched it multiple times since. I don't know why. I saw 28 Weeks Later, which was actually just terrible. Still scared me. I kept seeing visions of the stupid dad like hiding in the dark and standing there. Like that movie was totally unrealistic. They were running all over London like, it's half a square mile or something.
You know what?
Um,
You know what's kind of interesting is that during our captivity, you were more interested in the zombie media and watched all those movies, and our captors even got us like we had a DVD collection. But I would have no part of that in captivity. But now it's almost like I've recovered from that, and it just doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you now, which is funny how
yeah.
the tables have turned.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so 28 Years Later just came out, I mean, a month or two ago, and it was so stupid. Like, it was just really silly, like the other movies. Uh, I really wasn't a fan at all, but it sort of seemed to have a vibe like the I Am Legend novel, not the movie,
Mm,
because if you read the I Am Legend novel, they're actually like the vampires are actually a society, and any surviving humans are like the outsiders now.
right.
Whereas I don't know why they didn't carry that theme into the Will Smith movie, which was otherwise amazing because Will Smith is amazing. But
He
anyway,
is.
yeah, so that was the situation in 28 Years Later. It's just that, they have the alpha now. It shows that they're reproducing. There's a pregnant one, she gives birth. And
Mm.
now it's like the humans are the outsiders. So it's kind of a similar theme, but just still really dumb. The people that we were with thought it was amazing, but I
Oh.
don't know.
So there's a book, when I found out about The Last of Us and the cordyceps idea, I was interested. And there's a book that was written called The Girl with All the Gifts that is also a zombie cordyceps story. And in that book is about these zombie children and the survivors are trying to like educate them to see if it's possible to I don't not recover from being a zombie, but just to see like to study them basically. And they do start to form like little groups like of like feral zombie children start to like they're more intelligent making plans and everything. So it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting book.
Oh, I hadn't heard of that one for some reason.
Hmm.
I think we also need to make a video about Will Smith. I
I
was
agree with
so
that.
Yeah, as you know, I get very emotional during movies, and when Will Smith lost his dog to a zombie bite in that movie,
Oh my God, that was really, really tough
it
emotionally.
was painful. It was like,
Yes.
yeah, it was like physically painful. And I've seen this movie multiple times since then, and it's like every single time is like the first time I'm seeing that scene, and I can't take it. And I honestly don't even like dogs, but I guess it's
Me
just
neither, but I totally agree with you in that in that case.
Yeah, it's just like the companionship. And I always think that like dogs seem like a good idea because people seem so happy with them and they seem like genuine companions. But I don't know.
I think part of it is like dogs are onto us. They know there's something not quite right about us, even when we're in our human form. And
Always,
whereas cats are
yes.
the opposite. Like cats think we're awesome, as they
Yeah, they
should.
don't care. Like
Yeah,
cats just seem to see the soul of
right.
whatever being you are, no matter what planet you are or what you are. They see your soul, they know you're good, and then that's the end of the story.
Yeah. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's time for us to sign off. So you can look forward to a video about cordyceps soon. There will be a lot of good information in that. And also a video about Will Smith. Even more good information in that. Phyllis and I are huge fans of Will Smith. We love his music. We love his movies. We love his TV shows. So
Yes. Yes. Will Smith
signing
got
off.
us through some tough times in the 90s.
Yeah. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you soon.
Bye, Earthlings.
Peace.